people treat them, or do their feelings about themselves affect how they are treated by others, the American-born Chinese? How do the characters in American-born Chinese transform themselves to fit in? What are the forces that cause them to change from the beginning to the middle to the end of the story? What can be learned from the Monkey King and the other characters who return to their true form in the novel? Does this idea have any connection to the movie Mean Girls?
In the beginning, we just meet Jin as just like a regular Chinese boy trying to like, in a new school, he's just moved into a new school and he gets picked on a little bit. But then in the end, we kind of learn like in high school how he kind of like transformed himself to be as like white as possible. I think that's kind of sad, like that he had to do that. And then how we figure out that his cousin, like Chinky, kind of ruins it for him every time, because when Chinky comes, it shows everyone how like Chinese he is, and like reminds him that he is Chinese when people think that he might just be like normally white. And I feel like that's kind of sad that he has to do that, and like that's his way of getting away from the bullying. And like on page 198, when he after he gets punched by Wei Chin, he like goes into his mirror at the middle of the night and he sees himself as Danny. And I just like, once again, I feel like that's kind of sad how he has to like picture himself and like try to act white when he's not, and like that's his way of fitting in.
I said both Jin and the Monkey King kind of act very similarly to their environments. Like both of them don't want to act or be told who they are, and like this is kind of shown when Jin like starts eating American food, and when whenever that what was his name, the Chinese boy? Wei Chan. When Wei Chan moved, he was eating like dumplings, and he started making fun of Wei Chan for eating the dumplings instead of American food. And then like similar to that, like on page 70, the Monkey King meets Zheyo's son, and he tells him that he must return to his true form, and in response, like the Monkey King tells him to prove it and like flies away defiantly. So like both Jin and the Monkey King just defy like who they really are.
Yeah, I think both of them, Jin and the Monkey King, try to change themselves because they feel that they don't fit in. Like on page 12, when the Monkey King wasn't allowed into the party with like all the other gods and deities, he tried to change himself to be more human because they didn't want like a monkey with them. And then when Jin got to school the first day on page 25, he was bullied for being Chinese and tried to change that too, like by just acting more like American, I guess, and like not talking different, not like eating different things.
I agree with that. Like Jin and the Monkey King both changed throughout the book because they got picked on, which leads to them being like sad about themselves and how they are, and they just want to fit in. Like on page 194, when like Jin had the chance to like change into anything he wanted, he decided to turn in like his American form of Danny, and like the same with the Monkey King earlier in the book. He didn't like being a monkey, so he like wanted to be more of a human form and more like god-like. So he changed into like a bigger being, and so I think that Jin and Monkey King both really changed throughout this book.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think there are a lot of examples when they change. My example for Jin is on page 97, when it has like the page of panels, no words, and like is of him thinking of Amelia with the other guy. And then he gets to like the thought of like changing his hair to curly and blonde. So like, yeah, that's my example of when he gets the thought to change himself. And then for the Monkey King, it was on page 58 and 59 when he's coming out of the cave after like doing all the training, and he comes out and the monkeys, he's taller and has clothes on, and the monkeys are like, "What's new? You look different, like new haircut or something." And like I thought that was kind of weird, or like an interesting part where he changes.
I think emotionally they both change. Jin seemed happy when he was back in Chinatown, and he was like friendly and playing with his friends and stuff. And then once he goes to his new school, he acts more angry and unhappy, and he kind of like thinking violently when he saw Wei Chan, was like, I want to beat him up. And also the Monkey King becomes emotionally more angry as well, after he realizes realized he wasn't proud to be a monkey, and he started being harsh to the other monkeys. And I thought a sad part was on page 20, when after hearing that the other gods talked about like the monkey smell, it said that he stayed awake thinking of all night thinking of how to get rid of it. So they both had to take a long time to discover that it's best to just be themselves.
Yeah, I think that was just the maturity level. Like both Monkey King and Jin were just like socially, emotionally immature. Like they just were just ashamed of who they were. And like on page 55, the Monkey King instituted the Shu rule of hoping to make the monkeys and himself more human-like, more god-like. And like that just shows like that he was really like, he was willing to do anything at that point. Like she just said with the monkey smell, like he was willing to do anything to be anything but himself. And like on page 98, when Jin changed his hair color to be his hair to be curly, and like he was just willing to change anything to be anything but himself, basically. And like I think they kind of like grew emotionally and socially to become more mature people. And I think this kind of like climaxes at 213 on page 213 and 214 when they kind of both turn back to their true forms and are accepting of their true forms and proud of their true forms.
Yeah, I think you could definitely learn a lesson from that, and that both Jin and the Monkey King weren't truly happy until they were back and like accepted their true form and like accepted who they were. And I think that's relatable for a lot of people all over the world. Just like a lot of people have things about them that they don't necessarily like, but you just have to like accept it and be happy with it.
I find it, oh sorry, were you gonna go first? In regards to the second part of the question about like how the Monkey King and Jin are affected by other people, I think most of the time Jin is negatively affected by the way people treat him, but the Monkey King is, I think his feelings about himself affect how others treat him. For example, he becomes the great sage equal of heaven on page 60, so he becomes more godlike, but that doesn't stop him from being discriminated against, because eventually on page 84 he is buried under the mountain of rock by Siyotsu, however you say it. So again, even though he feels that he is more powerful, that doesn't stop him from being put down by other people such as Siyotsu.
Kind of similar to what Holly was saying, I was going to say that I think the characters are affected way more by how other people treat them than like the feelings that they have about themselves. Because on page 33, it's like when Jin is in elementary school and you see the kids making fun of him for bringing Chinese food, and then like the day after that he never brings Chinese food ever again. Like he wouldn't think like that it's weird to bring that kind of food if someone hadn't like made fun of him or done something like that. And it's kind of the same with the Monkey King, because he never would have like started wearing shoes and wanting to turn into like more of a human kind of character if they would have let him into the party, like even though he was a monkey. So I just think that all of the changes that the characters go through and like all of the negative feelings that they have about themselves wouldn't really be there like if they hadn't been made fun of or discriminated against for who they are.
Going off that, I agree with what Sarah says. So like to answer the question, are they affected by the way people treat them, or do their feelings about themselves affect how they're treated? I think they were affected by how people treated them, and that changed what they thought about themselves. For example, on page 13, when the Monkey King arrived to the dinner party, he proudly announced how the doorman should say he's, you know, the Monkey King of the Sage or Mountain Fruitful region. But then once, like, he's super proud of who he is until he's told that he's not like welcomed in that society. In the same way with Jin, is he's perfectly content with watching cartoons and playing toys with his friends until he's told that that's not okay. So I think that's what influences them.
I think you can relate this theme that we see commonly in American-born Chinese about like being yourself and like going to your true form. it's similar to how in Mean Girls, Katie was like changed herself to fit in with the plastics, but that wasn't like who she is, and she wasn't really happy with that until she went back to like being herself.
Yeah, another similarity is like how Jin, when Wei Chen moved to the same school that Jin was at, Jin kind of like acted mean and acted like he didn't want to be a part of him. And like when Wei Chen asked if he had friends, Jin told him that his friends were the guys that like always made fun of him. And this is kind of similar to Mean Girls because like Katie, when she first moved to the new school, like the two weird kids at the school like invited her to be friends, and she instead like decided to be with the plastics. And it's just kind of like they don't want to, both Jin and Katie don't want to be involved with like the weirdos of the school. They want to be in the popular group, and I think that's just kind of one similarity.
Going along with that, like another example from Mean Girls was they were all trying to be like top of the school and all popular, but none of them were really that happy. And then like once all the plastics split up at the end, they all started like to be more happy with their new friends, and they just like it seemed that they were a lot more happy than they were when they were like all part of the plastics.
Okay, we